Thank you, my friends. Good to have you. Welcome to our next live stream from the Healing Momentum channel. My name is Michael. Welcome if you haven't been here before. If you're returning, it's good to have you and to continue to provide videos that help you to awaken your mind, integrate your inner child, and feel a sense of healing, of relief, of movement up the emotional scale, out of negativity, out of frustration, out of hurt, into a sense of forgiveness, into a feeling of hopefulness, into a feeling of personal power and well-being. So that's what this is all about here in what we do at Healing Momentum. So welcome to everybody. So today's topic is feeling beat by life, feeling beat down by life, and allowing mirroring practice to help create a healing. Now, when I talk about, let's think about a couple of things. One, what do I mean by beat down? Beat down, and what I like to do is make a regular long form video and then follow it up with a live stream. So the long form video, which I encourage you to go watch, is talking about the idea of the meaning of the word beat. And beat, I'm taking beat from the Beat Generation and Jack Kerouac and taking their meaning of it and talking about that in that other video in a way that could provide a healing for you. Let's extend it further. Beat down, suffering, struggling, feeling like we're living in a trap, in a personal dilemma, and that we have to surrender, that there is something going on in our lives that has us, that has maybe control over us, or that is overwhelming, or that we have feel a sense of loss, and that it's out of our control. And what I'm going to be talking about today is some stories and ideas that I've gone through, or I've seen friends or clients go through when they've been beat down, particularly when dealing with mental health issues, dealing with relationships, and dealing with work, which can create a beat down feeling for a lot of us. So we're going to look at those ideas, and then we're going to practice some mirroring to create a healing. So again, what do I mean by creating a healing? I want to have respect for anybody who's watching. You may be going through something very, very serious in your life. I'm not expecting a half an hour live stream to create solutions for you. However, the idea of creating a healing means that through this practice that you can feel better, that through this practice of mirroring affirmations about these topics, about when we're beat down, that the work with me, that repeating back, mirroring back an affirmation that I might have, working with Michael, I'm allowed to connect to myself. I'm allowed to feel my own feelings. I have permission to take time to heal. Affirmations like that through practice with me, that I'm here with you, we're here together, we're collaborating, that this collaboration will allow your feeling state about these issues to move up the scale, to move closer to forest feeling, meaning that I live out here in Arcata, California. We're right in the middle of the redwoods. Whenever I go to the redwoods, there's a sense of this feeling, this excellent word that I use all the time, sympathy, to create a feeling, a sympathetic feeling, a feeling of being heard, of being noticed, of togetherness, a feeling of compassion, a feeling of understanding. Every time when I drive or walk into the redwood forest, that I'm entering this container, this environment, that as soon as I enter that environment, the air feels fresher, the presence of the trees are there. I know I'm awake and aware that I am in the presence of nature. And this presence of nature creates a sense of sympathy within me, a feeling of self-loving, a feeling of well-being, a feeling of acceptance, a feeling of lightness. Kerouac, as I talked about in the previous video, was asked on a TV show in the 50s, what do you mean by beat? What is this word beat? And again, you could watch the other video to understand these ideas. And when he answered, he said, sympathetic. It's a very powerful idea that having awareness of our own beatness, or awareness of the suffering, the beat down in somebody else, the mindfulness, the knowing, oh, that's what's really happening. I can be aware. I'm your partner. I go through my stuff and you are receiving me right now. And I'm well aware that you go through your things. And so that awareness, that mindfulness gives us a sense of that feeling of sympathy. That's what we want. And to me, sympathy is a feeling that is connected to nature. It is a feeling that we could achieve, try to establish, and swim in and go deeper with. Because when we get to that feeling, it breaks us out of the negativity. It breaks us out of the reactivity. In other words, we may be beaten down. We may feel beaten down by our mental health condition. We may feel beaten down by what's going on in our relationships. We may feel beaten down by the situations in work or family of origin, go on and on about the topics. But even though we're beaten down, we have a choice about what we do with our minds. And that's what we're focusing on here. Our minds can go down into reactivity very quickly. Oh, I have this mental health issue and I can't stand life and I can't stand myself, and so on and so forth. That's reactivity, that's self-criticism, and that is something that we're trying to work with here, where the thinking is up to us, in spite of the fact that we may be suffering, in spite of the fact that the situation that we're in may be very, very real for us. We do not have to lose our minds, that we can choose the thoughts that we want to think, and those thoughts can have an emotional response in us. And that emotional response may not immediately save or solve the situation, but they will bring us relief and help us feel better and tune us into that deeper environment of sympathy, that deeper environment of nature, where from that connection to that feeling, because we're taking our thinking out of reactivity, out of self-criticism, and into healing, into openness, into connecting to nature, that will allow new resources to come to us, that will allow us a feeling of more energy, that will allow us a feeling of well-being, even in the moment, even while living with this difficult situation, that we could still feel well-being. And this is very important, because if we don't achieve that well-being and we get stuck in those reactive mindset, it gets stuck in those thinking patterns that beat us down even further, that's when it could lead to the situations getting worse. That can lead to us becoming ill. That could lead to us creating worse, because our hurt is so bad that we are not aware of what we're saying to our partners. And so we may be very hurt, but we end up saying something, like, you're the problem if it wasn't for you, or if it wasn't for this job, or so on and so forth, instead of taking responsibility. And the responsibility, like I said, really starts with using our thinking to create a better feeling within. That's what we want. And if we could get that, we are really on our way. Terrific. So once again, thank you for being here. Feel free to put something in the chat with any questions that you may have. And let's start with the first beat down idea, the first beat down situation, and that's our mental health. So I work with people of all variety of backgrounds. I've worked with people who have ADHD, adults with ADHD. I've worked with people who have schizophrenia. I've worked with people like myself, who have PTSD or CPTSD, which is complex PTSD. That's something that usually is associated with people who've gone something prolonged suffering in childhood, could lead to a complex post-traumatic stress disorder that stays with you in your brain. It's terrible. I have it. It's an awful thing to go through. I know that the folks that I work with who have ADHD, that there's so much going through their heads. They can't help getting out of certain patterns, like being late. Um, it's a very painful thing to experience, because it's like you're not in control of your mind. And I know that people who have PTSD, like myself, the word that's used a lot is dysregulation. Like your body doesn't feel normal. Your body doesn't feel regular. Um, that there's a sense, an overwhelming feeling of dread, a sense of oncoming collapse, a fear, a lingering fear that's there, that something's going to happen, that's going to be negative, that's going to really bring me down. And that's with us all the time. And it affects our sleep. And people with ADHD affects their sleep too. People I've worked with who have schizophrenia, where they might be, clear and fine for a while, then out of, a stressor comes up, and then the next thing you know, that they're having hallucinations, or that they're hearing voices, or that they are uh, associated with a deep, prolonged depression, a feeling of failure and giving up. These are very serious things that affect our body, and then affect our self-concept and affect our attitude, and they affect our sleep. Hard to sleep at night, and then we're going through this cycle again and again and again and again, where I woke up again with this. Here I am with this. I'm suffering forever with this, and it's really with us. So first of all, I have a lot of empathy for those of us, not just coming. I'm a wounded healer, that I'm coming with a message of healing as someone who has suffered profoundly in his life, and healed quite a bit, but certainly still wakes up with PTSD symptoms, or when things go wrong, that my thoughts will first go to that dreadful feeling, or that sense of overwhelm and dysregulation that comes over the body, and then I'm lost in it. But again, through this practice, what I'm hoping that you can get is, you may feel lost and feel a sense of out of control of what your condition is. And I'm not here to end the condition. I'm not here to say that the condition can go away forever. But I am here to say that you can use your mind to create relief. So let's practice some mirroring. For those of you, if you don't have a mental health condition, bravo, fantastic, that's good for you. A lot of us do have it. A lot more of us have it than have something going on than people may be willing to realize. And people in our daily lives, our family, they may not remember what we have going on. They may not be able to understand or comprehend what it is that we're going through. They may not be able to tolerate it. They may feel blamed by us, so they ignore what we have going on. Okay, maybe so. So we're the ones who have it. So let's focus on ourselves. So what I want to do is go through offering some affirmations for you to mirror back. So when I say mirror back, I mean that you're going to repeat them out loud to yourself, as if you're the one saying it. So it's like I'm giving you the line, I'm offering you the screenplay, and all you have to do is mirror it back out loud and see if that creates some kind of positive effect for you, or helps you move up the emotional scale, move closer to the sense of sympathy, move closer to the sense of being in the forest right now with me. That feeling of organic, closer to your organic nature, through the practicing of these affirmations. So let's try some mirroring. Okay, so again, this is for focusing on the idea of having a mental health condition that creates suffering for us and affects us in our body. Okay, so mirror these things back, and we'll make this collaborative. It's true that I do suffer with a mental health condition. This means mirror back. It's true that this condition can be debilitating sometimes. Mirror that back. I'm the one who's suffering with this. Other people don't understand how bad this is. I get it. This is me noticing how bad it is to suffer with this. This is me noticing my condition. This is me taking a moment not to judge myself, not to put myself down, not to complain, and not to blame. This is me simply noticing what I go through. I don't have to fix it. I don't have to find some miracle cure. Right now, in this moment, I am simply noticing what I go through. Here's what I do know. With the suffering that I have, again, always mirroring back each affirmation, it means that there's a lot more moving through my mind. It means that there's a lot moving through my body. There may be more moving through me than I can handle. I may have trouble sleeping because there's more moving through me than I can handle. I may have trouble in my communication because there's more moving through me than I can handle. I may have trouble with my family because there's more moving through me than I can handle. Good, let's take a break with that. Maybe we'll do a little bit more in a second. Let me just wipe the Baba Boo and dry myself off. So how did that land on you so far? So think about these concepts. First of all, we're not healing you. Well, let me say this better. We're not curing you. We're not in any way looking at this as, okay, this beat guru guy on YouTube is going to fix my disease. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is creating a sense of relief, creating a healing that just moves your emotions up the scale and moves you out of negativity and reactivity. So one of the first ways that we can do that is by telling ourselves, this is me noticing it. It's real, it's there. So if you think about the idea in mirroring practice, where there's someone sending, in this case, I'm sending, and there's someone receiving, in this case, you're the one receiving. What I'm trying to offer you here is the possibility of becoming a receiver of yourself, becoming a receiver of your own condition. So if you go through a difficult sleep, here I am again, PTSD, up all night, I stink, life is terrible, what am I going to do, frustration, all of that, to shift and instead say, this is me simply noticing what I'm going through. So just that noticing, to breed some compassion for yourself. It doesn't necessarily mean that the feeling is going to go away, but by noticing the feeling, by focusing on the noticing, that you're establishing almost an entire new being, that you're creating a new relationship with yourself. Instead of beating yourself down further, instead of surrendering to the beat down, you're engaging with it. You're noticing it. You are the parent, becoming a parent with the child inside. And the child inside who's suffering terribly may suddenly realize, oh, I'm being noticed. The hurt child inside may suddenly gain a sense of peace or a sense of soothing and a sense of calm because the parent, without judgment, without criticism, is simply noticing the condition. Without fixing, without saying you need to be something else, the parent is going into receiving mode. And in addition to just noticing, that the parent is also saying, there's a lot moving through me. And just sit with that. Not everybody has this, but some of us really do. There's a lot moving through me. Now, of course, my PTSD, there's a lot moving through me. I went through terrible things as a child. I was raised in a Holocaust surviving family. My father was a baby in Poland, 1946. It's not a fun place to be. He developed paranoid schizophrenia, and that was unbearable for me as a child. It shut my entire being down, that I wanted to be playful and wanted to be alive. But something, in order to have a relationship with this man, I had to shut all of that down. In fact, I remember a point when I was about 13 or 14 at this point where I realized, oh, I know what I'll do. I'll make myself mentally ill. Crazy, but that's what I realized, in order to live with my father, in order to accept my father. It was a terrible thing. It was a total self-betrayal. It was complete reactivity. But I didn't know any better. So it's as if I brought on some of these conditions that I still suffer with today in order to cope at that time. Okay, here we are, and we could practice some mirroring. There's so much moving through me. Mirror that back. It started so long ago, and it's still going on. Now try this. I can forgive myself for this. I can tell myself there's so much moving through me, and it's not my fault. I am deserving of forgiveness. I am deserving of relief. I have permission to forgive myself. Great. Hope that landed well. Again, we're focusing on these affirmations so that we break the pattern of self-condemnation, of self-betrayal, and self-criticism, and move into practices of self-parenting, of noticing, of receiving, and just being there with these difficult feelings. And allowing that to move into a feeling that's closer to sympathy, closer to our nature, and letting that feeling develop over time with practice. So let's try another scenario. So I know that people can feel beat down in their relationships. I've worked with a lot of couples over the years, both in the West Coast and also in the New York area. And I've seen couples, married couples, long-term relationships where people get into situations where they're unhappy and they're trapped, where maybe it was great at first and then they got themselves into trouble, into money issues, into parenting issues, into communication issues. They're not connected to each other anymore. And maybe they still love the person and they're afraid to leave, or they're concerned about leaving, or it's impossible to leave. It's a real problem to leave, or they can't be on their own for whatever reason, that they need this person, but that they're suffering terribly because of this dilemma of I can't live with you and I can't live without you. Okay. Just check on this. So let's do some mirroring about those kinds of things. When we're in a relationship and we feel trapped and we feel beat down by the relationship, it's draining our life energy. We don't know what to do. We're afraid to leave, things like that. So let's try some mirroring. Even though I'm suffering in this relationship, mirror that back. And if you can't mirror it, then don't, or change it for you and say it out loud. It's important to vocalize it. You don't have to be perfect exactly the way I'm doing it. I'm trying to give scenarios that work for a lot of people. Maybe they don't work perfectly for you. So you adapt it. Okay, do your best with this. It may be too painful to leave this. But here's what I do know. I may be triggered by my partner. I may be disappointed and suffering because of my partner. But there's a child that lives inside me. I may be in a relationship with someone else, but I am also in a relationship with that child inside me. Let's do that again. I may be in a relationship with someone else. I may be suffering in this relationship. But here's what I do know. There is a hurt child inside me. I am the one to notice that child. I am the one to be with that child. I am the one to nurture that child. Even though I am with you in partnership, I am with my child in a loving relationship. I can tend to my child. I can love my child. I could nurture my child. I could be with my child. Terrific. Very, very, very good. So notice that. What's the main construct there to help you to break that pattern of beating yourself down even further? Is to remember that even though you're in a relationship with somebody else, that you're always in a relationship with yourself. You're always in a relationship with yourself. So in that regard, then you have an opportunity to create change powerfully, privately, to give yourself time to notice what you're really feeling, to be with your child, and to develop this adult within you. Now I know, okay, well, what do I do with my partner? Take it slow. Take it slow. Maybe you have a willing partner that wants to do counseling. Maybe counseling won't hurt. But take it slow and still come back to renewing your relationship with your inner child. And that is where you can begin to open the door out of the feeling of beat down and into that feeling of relief and moving yourself closer to that sense of sympathy in spite of the fact that you're suffering with someone else. It will take you out of the blame. It will take you out of the resentment and will help you come back to you, that you know that your child will begin to realize, okay, that mommy or daddy, meaning you, the parent within you, is giving me time, is noticing me, that I could calm myself, that I could be myself, and that I have permission to feel these uncomfortable feelings. That's what we want. We take up a lot of space. We could be connected with somebody. People can be in a relationship, love each other, be fond of each other, and they live in these tiny places, and they're over on top of each other and hurting each other and criticizing each other and getting into places that are really not good for each other. So what you want is to come back to that relationship with yourself, even if it creates change in the relationship, even if your partner doesn't notice. You want tools that give you a sense of relief. So I'll do a couple minutes more. So one concept, uh, if you're at work and you're stuck at work and you don't like the job and you're suffering and it's an environment where you feel trapped by the environment, where you're making a living by this environment, but it feels like a hell. All right. Well, let's do some mirroring on that and just kind of see if that shifts anything. We'll just do a little bit on that and bring everything to a close. Even though I feel stuck here, even though this job is creating pain for me, I am providing value. I am the one entering this environment. I am bringing myself into this environment, and I am adding value to this environment. This is me noticing the value that I create. I can give myself a break. It's true that I'm suffering in this environment. Mirror that back. And it's true that I feel like I'm losing my mind in this environment. But I do know that I am bringing myself to this environment and that I am adding value to this environment. Good. Again, how did that land on you? I'd love to hear your comments. If you're here live, feel free to leave a comment in the chat. Or if you're watching this as a recording, we'd love to hear how this landed on you and if it brought you any relief. So from this standpoint, again, notice the concepts, and these concepts work not just with professional situations, but other situations. The idea that you're entering an environment. We could get really stuck and get wrapped up, and our feelings are, boom, right there. My PTSD is triggered in this environment. I'm out of my mind in this environment. I'm suffering in this environment. But the environment is not an environment that is you. You are entering the environment. That you are your own self, bringing your value and adding your value to that environment. So if you're beat down by work, instead of overly focusing on how bad it is and complaining and going into resentment, love the idea. Invite your practice of remembering, I'm entering an environment. I didn't create the environment. I'm choosing to enter this environment, and I'm adding my value to this environment. And if you focus on that value and you come back to yourself about that value, then maybe that will bring you some relief. And maybe that will help your feelings get closer to that sympathetic nature. That work might not get better, but you might get better. And that might bring a little bit more ease for you at work. I'm entering this environment. I'm bringing my value to this environment. And I like my value. I like the value that I'm providing to this environment. Fantastic. Really, really good practice. So let's wind this down. Let's review what we learned. So one, okay, we're not trying to cure our ills. We're trying to break the pattern of our thinking and bring us into another place with our thinking. And through the practice of mirroring with me, and you can come back and watch this again and practice these affirmations with me, or look at some of the other videos on the channel and interact with me from those places. But through the mirroring practice that you're being offered, an entirely new sense of self, meaning that the person who is suffering, there's a hurt child inside us that is awakened and is suffering terribly. So if we understand the dynamics of mirroring, that mirroring is sending and mirroring is receiving, and we can become more of receivers of ourselves, of parents to the child within. And that parent's job is not to fix the situation, but to be with that child, to notice that child, to not fix the child, to acknowledge and validate the feelings of the child within. And this might not change within the next 10 seconds, but 10 minutes it might. And 10 days, you may have a better rhythm to all of this by really noticing, oh, I'm not going to beat myself down even further. I'm going to notice the suffering. I'm going to be with it. I'm going to allow it. And I am going to simply validate the existence of the hurt child within and see if those practices will bring relief. In the case of having a mental health condition that creates suffering for you, remember that there's more going through you. That more is going through you. And it shows up as this mental health condition. That more that's going through you, hopefully thinking of it in that way, will give you a little bit of relief and maybe help you to imagine, if I can be with that more that's moving through me, maybe that more that's moving through me needs to be expressed. Maybe that mental health condition is a voice, and that voice within me needs to find its way out through expression, through art, through books, through journaling, who knows what, but to see it as more moving through you as a voice, and that voice needing expression. If you're in a difficult relationship, to get out of blame of the partner, resentment that you're in it, and to return to, I have a child within me. I can take care of my child, even though I'm in a relationship with somebody else. And just seeing that as a kind of cornerstone construct of being responsible for yourself within the relationship. And in terms of work, remember, you're the one who chose to enter that environment. You didn't create that environment. And by entering that environment, you could focus on, I'm adding value. The environment might be crazy. The environment might be triggering me, but I can focus on the value that I could create, that I create in that environment. And that in itself can bring me relief. And that relief is what we want. That moves us up the scale. So let me start closing. First thing I'm going to do is take a look at my book, The Zen of Solo Travel, A Journey from Anxiety to Enlightenment. This is a book that I wrote about a life-changing trip that I took to Japan in 2005, where I was really beat down before I went, and I needed answers. And through the practice of solo travel, that this trip that I did alone to Japan gave me so much more about myself, so much more understanding about myself, that I was able to return home and move to a new level. And really was the threshold of fatherhood or not fatherhood in my marriage. Stay in the marriage, not stay in the marriage. That threshold that I was on, I found the answers I needed from the environment. But I'm just going to read a paragraph. And this paragraph is The idea is that there's like the feeling of like there's a beast inside of us. That beast is really our inner child, that hurt inner child. But I'm using the term beast because it's like an animal that's out of control. So just let me lay this on you and see how it lands from the Zen of Solo Travel. The beast knows it is about to become irrelevant. It will defend itself to the bitter end. It will attempt to drown you in its darkness. You must concentrate. You must be determined. You must release the beast from your body completely. You must be strong like a mountain, deep like an ocean, magnificent as a thunderstorm. Lightning is about to strike your soul at its core. The idea behind that, not to be negative about the inner child and be calling it a beast, but that's what it feels like, this out of control animal inside. So the suggestion is, if the beast, if in the standpoint of mirroring, that there's a send and that there's a receive, so if the beast, this hurt child, this wild being inside of us is erupting, is out of control, is not letting us sleep, we could be strong like a mountain. And we could, as a mountain, be quiet and strong and simply notice the beast, notice that child. And in so doing, that child simmers, soothes, relieves itself, and exits our consciousness because of that noticing, awareness. That's what we're talking about here. Terrific. Thanks for hearing that. So if you're curious, you could go in the description section. There's a link to get the book. It's a great book. It's a funny book. This neurotic Jewish guy from New York going to Japan is funny on its own right, but really deep and rich and filled with powerful learnings about my journey and powerful learnings about the idea of the solo traveler. That not all of us want to take a trip all the way across the world, but all of us have to go through the solo journey of our own emotional lives over time. So the book deals with that, the concepts of the solo journey that we all go on. So it's a great book. I hope you take a look at it. And if you're inspired and you feel something of a curiosity or a connection to me, maybe you yourself, you and your partner, or maybe you're a leader and you're interested in working with your team and using mirroring as a healing communication tool to create more wellness in your work environment, or to help as a processing tool to create solutions and bring the best out of other people. So any of those things, healing for yourself, healing for your partnership, and healing for your work and your leadership, consider doing a session with me. There's a link in the description where you could just fill out a form, send an email to me, and I follow up. And we could do a Zoom session for 30 minutes and give it a shot of receiving care and training from me using mirroring. I invite you to do it. I think it's a great thing to do. And I've helped a lot of people over the last 18, 19 years. And maybe the next person is you. So take a look at those things in the description. I appreciate you so much for watching. And as always, remember to keep it moving. Have a blessed day. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you, and use these tools. Have a great day. Take care.